History remembers the headlines. We find the bylines. This is the unsung. The Cuban Missile Crisis is remembered as a tense diplomatic showdown between John F. Kennedy and Nikita Khrushchev, two leaders who pulled the world back from the brink of nuclear war. It's a clean, reassuring story of high-stakes diplomacy and rational leadership. But history credits the wrong men. On October 27, 1962, the decision to start or stop a thermonuclear war wasn't made in the White House Situation Room or the Kremlin. It was made in a sweltering, darkened Soviet submarine, 300 feet below the Caribbean Sea, hunted by American warships. And it wasn't made by a president or a premier. It was made by a quiet, unassuming Soviet naval officer named Vasili Arkhipov. While the world celebrated the triumph of political negotiation, the one man who actually prevented Armageddon returned to a life of complete obscurity. So how was the officer who saved the world so thoroughly erased from its memory? To understand Vasili Arkhipov, you have to understand he was not a stranger to crisis. His reputation for calm under unimaginable pressure was forged in the radioactive heart of another disaster. Just 1 year earlier, in July 1961, he was the executive officer on the ill-fated K-19 submarine. During a mission near Greenland, the boat's nuclear reactor suffered a catastrophic coolant leak. With temperatures soaring and radiation levels climbing, the crew faced an imminent meltdown that would have poisoned the North Atlantic and potentially triggered a NATO response. While panic set in, Arkhipov maintained his composure, coordinating a heroic and ultimately suicidal effort by a team of engineers to jury-rig a cooling system. 8 men died from acute radiation sickness within days, many more in the years that followed. But the reactor was contained. Arkhipov survived, forever marked by the event, but also forever respected by his peers as a man who did not break when faced with the abyss. This crucible of experience is what brought him to the Caribbean in October 1962. By then, he was the flotilla chief of staff and second in command aboard the B-59, one of 4 Soviet Foxtrot-class submarines deployed secretly to Cuba. Each was armed with a single nuclear-tipped torpedo, a weapon of last resort carrying a destructive yield comparable to the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. His role on B-59 was unique and absolutely critical. Unlike other submarines in the Soviet fleet, the authority to launch this special weapon was not held by the captain alone. Due to the extreme nature of their mission, protocol required the unanimous consent of 3 officers: the captain, the political officer, and the flotilla chief. This check and balance was designed to prevent a rash decision. It put Arkhipov, known for his technical skill and unflappable demeanor, in a position of immense, shared power. He was the failsafe, and that failsafe was about to be tested. The pivotal moment arrived on October 27th, known as Black Saturday, the most dangerous day of the crisis. The B-59 had been submerged for days, trying to evade the American naval blockade. Deep below the surface, they were cut off, blind, and deaf. Their last communication from Moscow was days old. The U.S. Navy destroyer, the USS Beale, had located them and began dropping signaling depth charges, small, non-lethal explosives intended to force the submarine to surface and identify itself. But inside the steel hull of the B-59, the crew didn't know they were just signals. To them, the percussive blasts against the hull felt like an attack. They believed World War III had begun. The conditions inside were a living hell. The air conditioning had failed, and temperatures soared past 60 degrees Celsius, over 140 degrees Fahrenheit. The air was thick with carbon dioxide, and crew members were reportedly fainting from the heat and lack of oxygen. Claustrophobia, fear, and exhaustion pushed men to their absolute limit. In this chaos, the submarine's captain, Valentin Savitsky, a man known for his fiery temper, reached his breaking point. Believing they were under attack and their destruction was imminent, he screamed, "We're going to blast them now. We will die, but we will sink them all." He ordered the nuclear torpedo to be prepared for launch. The political officer, Ivan Maslennikov, agreed. 2 of the 3 required votes were now yes. The fate of the world hung on one man's decision. Arkhipov, recalling his experience on K-19, understood the catastrophic stakes of a single mistake. He also understood the American signals. He refused. He calmly argued that the depth charges were signals, not a full-blown assault. He insisted they were not under direct attack, and therefore had no justification to unleash a nuclear weapon without direct orders from Moscow. A furious argument broke out in the cramped control room, but Arkhipov held his ground. He methodically reasoned with the captain on the edge of a breakdown, persuading him to surface and await orders. His logic and unwavering calm prevailed. The submarine broke the surface amidst the American fleet, opened communications, and eventually turned back. The moment passed. Arkhipov's single resolute no was the final gate holding back nuclear war. So why did this act of world-saving courage vanish from the history books? Arkhipov's erasure was a byproduct of Cold War secrecy and the universal need for a simpler, more palatable narrative. The Soviet Union classified the entire incident at the highest level. Upon their return, the crew was debriefed and sworn to absolute secrecy. To admit that a submarine commander had nearly started a nuclear war on his own initiative would have been a massive political embarrassment for the Kremlin. For their part, the Americans had no idea how close they had come. They saw a Soviet subsurface and turn away. To them, it was just another day on the blockade. The full story remained buried for decades, locked away in classified files and the memories of the crew. History also loves a great man narrative. It's far more comforting to believe that Kennedy and Khrushchev, two powerful leaders, skillfully navigated the crisis with rational statecraft. The story of Arkhipov complicates that. It reveals the terrifying truth. The world came perilously close to accidental apocalypse. Not because of grand strategy, but because of one exhausted captain in a hot, dark submarine. It highlights the role of pure chance and the immense fragility of command and control systems. This messier, more frightening reality didn't fit the heroic narrative both superpowers wanted to promote. It wasn't until a 2002 conference in Havana, marking the 40th anniversary of the crisis, that declassified Soviet documents and the testimonies of other officers finally brought Arkhipov's role to light. But by then, it was too late for him. Vasili Arkhipov had passed away in 1998, never receiving public recognition in his lifetime for his monumental act. Today, Vasili Arkhipov's legacy is a profound lesson in moral courage and grace under the most extreme pressure imaginable. Robert McNamara, the U.S. Secretary of Defense during the crisis, later admitted, "We came very, very close to nuclear war, closer than we knew at the time." He concluded simply, "Arkhipov saved the world." His story reminds us that history is unjust made by presidents and premiers in grand halls of power. Sometimes, the most important decisions are made by ordinary individuals in the shadows, whose names we may never know. Who are the other unsung figures who averted catastrophe? Share their stories in the comments below. And if you believe these hidden histories need to be told, subscribe to the Unsung.